Well, there is an option of the sheet that has not earned the interest of the creators of this program, in this specific version, to put a tool here on the tape, which is that of the titles. So when we go here to options of the sheet, we see that we have our old page setting window, selected only for sheet, which is exactly what we had in previous versions, and some of the things we have seen that have gone to what is the tool belt. Well, there is an option which is the one of printing titles, which I have not found, at least where it can be in this new version. And I think that it is really very interesting to know how it works. Well, in this case, if we want, we can repeat certain rows or certain columns that, let's say, work as a header of the different rows and columns. Of course, we saw this very clearly when we are going to print this spreadsheet, and we see that indeed, here we have the concept of each of the indicators for a couple of years. But it turns out that for the rest of the years, we only have the data, but we do not know what indicators they refer to. The same happens from sheet number 6, that we have a series of concepts and the data for certain years, but they do not appear here in the printed copy. So we cannot know exactly what they refer to. Well then, for this, for example, we are going to lower the scale a little bit so that a few more come in. Well, for this we have this option that is very useful. It is very interesting because I can tell it to repeat the rows. I select here, for example, the rows 2, the ones that, until row 2, it is going to repeat it to me. The one out of 2, which is the one that I see that I have every year. Row 1 is the one that contains every year. It is going to repeat it in each of the pages every time it is going to print a set of lower rows, that it is not attached to what is row 1. Well, we see simply by accepting this option, we accept, and we see that when we send it to print, we have here printed the headings of the years, but from the next rows, we see that here it has also repeated that row, with which we already have in each of the pages, whether they are the first or the last, we have the corresponding heading. Well, in the same way we could do with the heading of the rows, so that these concepts that we have here would appear for all the pages, so that when we get to these, we do not get lost and we do not know really what each of those numbers that we have here refers to. We go to our sheet, and what we have to tell it is that in the design of the page, we are going to define it. We are going to give it an option of the sheet, which is that we repeat the columns of the left. Which column of the left? We give it here and we say that the column A, we select all the column A, that column is going to be repeated every time we go to the right. Moving to the right, we go to a new page. Of course, logically, this is going to mean that we are going to write, probably at the time of printing, we are going to write more sheets, but in fact, we are going to have to go back from 8 to 12, but we see that each one of them has perfectly identified all the concepts, and when we go down, the concepts and the years are also identified. With which this is a very interesting option, so that when we have very extensive data tables, all the sheets that result from my printing are with all the data, all the rows and columns, conveniently identified.